Basically, blepharoplasty is eyelid surgery.
Eyelid surgery, or call it Sankapur surgery.
It's taking an incision in your eyes.
There's an incision, and it creates a fold just to widen the eyes.
It creates an eyelid if there's not one there. So what you get is like a westernizing.
Asian eyes, they don't have the crease that you see with many other cultures.
Asian eyes are categorized being very slitty because there's no folds.
Sankapur creates that effect.
So it gives you a fold.
I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Sharon. I am a young woman, Korean, who enjoys work, is hardworking, not too talkative. I'm thinking of having cosmetic surgery done to my eyes. The surgery would open up new doors for me. And when people see me, I think they see me as a long-haired Asian girl. Rarely do people peg me as being Korean. They usually say, "Are you Japanese? Are you Chinese? Oh, konnichiwa." And I'm like, "Hello." My Korean heritage has little to do with the way I look.
My name is Maria Estante, but my closest friends call me Reba, which is my middle name, and the one I prefer because it's unusual. I was born in the Philippines, but I came to Canada when I was 2. Currently, I am looking into having cosmetic surgery done on my nose and eyes, because I think life is about self-improvement, and it's not really a vanity issue as it is just feeling so much better about myself. I guess I don't really feel connected to my Filipino roots. I always felt more connected to whatever vestige of Spanish blood there was in me, even if it was only 1%. I think I actually have some of the characteristics of a great-grandmother that was supposedly very, very Spanish-looking and actually quite outgoing. She was definitely not that Asian ideal of that sort of demure, quiet, more reserved woman, more dainty. From what I get from my great-grandmother is that she was rather threatening. I want to look in the mirror and see who I really am.
When I look in the mirror, I see myself. This is how I want to be represented, and
I feel like you look kind of not presentable.
the day goes on.
It's hard to explain. It's an emotional thing.
This is what they see. This is the
Like a sense of saying,
reflection.
you're okay too. I didn't look okay. And it was very odd because I didn't like having my picture taken when I was a kid. I'd kind of shy away and I'd...
Here's a man who knows all about making up faces to the best advantage. Perhaps you'll be able to pick up some useful hints.
I remember when I was younger, I would start putting on blue eyeshadow and really red lipstick. I would wear cosmetic coloring that suited somebody that was actually blonde and blue-eyed who could wear that. I think it was subconscious on my part, but it was some kind of attempt to make me physically look like what you're supposed to look like. And then on the odd occasion, I'd look at a fashion magazine and they'd have something for Asians. Asians have coarse hair, and so they should do this with themselves. Or Asians have sallow skin, so they should only use these colors in their palette. It was like this reinforcement that you're odd.
There are many concepts of good looks. We accept the idea as being the oval. Any deviation from the oval presents somewhat a problem, which can be altered through the proper use of makeup.
For like an ideal face, I guess what people have appreciated in faces is symmetry, the space between the eyes, nose, mouth, the roundness of the cheeks, long eyelashes that can bat, like they can fly off the ground. one thing I'm like, well, credit myself with is not wearing frosty pink lipstick and blue eyeshadow. I'm not a victim of that.
The end of the eyebrow must start above, directly above the inner canthus of the eye. The end of the eyebrow must then be determined this way.
This surgery, to many people, may be unknown, may be unfamiliar, and it's but it's not. It's quite common. It's amongst the Korean community. How I first found out about it was my mom. My mom has what you would say the incision, the eyelids, where my dad does not, and I took my dad's side. And my mom's like, well, there's surgery, you know, that's done. At first I felt not completely beautiful, because to suggest something to, it's like you should not feeling accepted for your true state. And so that was something that I had to kind of deal with. It was like, why? For whom am I doing this for? For what reason? Why should I?
I mean, I was lucky. I mean, my parents weren't looks-oriented. But looking back, it's inbred in a lot of the people of the generation of my parents that the closer you resemble the Europeans, the better you are.
Just as this white barbarian from the West, as they called him, was the first man to raise the American flag.
Being from a culture that was dominated for 300 years, there's a lot of race trauma. The more American or Australian you look, the more beautiful you were. The more Spanish you look, the more beautiful you were. There was a hierarchy of beauty within the culture.
Every time I see a woman with ornaments in her hair, I'll think of Okichi with the yellow combs.
I remember just Dad coming into my life with this aunt who just go on about it. How your cousin looks this, your cousin looks that. Look at her, look at these pictures. Look at how she looks more like a Spanish dancer and you don't. And it was constant. There were moments where it was comparing feature to feature. Look at her eyes as opposed to your eyes. They're so much bigger.
She's pretty in her own right as far as I am concerned, but I think it's different perhaps growing here in a society when you are surrounded with a notion that beauty is when you're white and you're blonde and you're blue-eyed and slim and all of those things. And the media or the fashion had kind of exposed that. And I never had any problem with that growing up, and perhaps it was an assumption for me that it was not an issue for her, and it appears like now that it is kind of an issue.